Also, interestingly enough, no word from Rob, even though he was down to play tonight.
I thought I was the last to join. That's comforting.
Rob's like neck deep into a fucking Final Fantasy raid or something.
Probably. That long. Jesus Christ. Wait. Oh, there it is. Fuck, it was that long. That was the longest time.
I should really think about finding new miniatures for you guys.
Oh, right, because we're different people. That makes sense.
Yeah. I would definitely load in the other room, but I know it fucking crashed some people's computers.
Boom.
You're not wrong, Mike. But at the same time, sorry, we got 2 mics in here now.
Oh, I know.
Yes, Master Watch.
So yes, just YOLO. But the thing is, I have the room where all those miniatures are held, so it would make sense that I go and like load up that room and help you guys pick. And I also know there's certain people, like, I feel like if I tried to load up that room with Daniel's computer, it would just fucking freeze it and crash it.
Probably.
Honestly, probably Ryan would have the easiest time now loading that room.
Yeah, Ryan, your computer's fairly new, right?
It's newer than mine.
I think so. I think it's the newest out of the group.
Do you remember what graphics card you got for that?
I do not remember off the top of my head.
Well, since we're waiting, I'm curious.
You want me? I mean,
Just look up device manager.
yeah. Let's see.
You're going to be looking at display adapters.
Got an AMD Radeon RX 5700 XT.
You said 5700 XT?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too familiar with Radeon, so I have to look that one up. Pretty sure that's a good one.
If I remember it was. We were debating on one or the other, and I decided to go like one step down because it was like it made no sense to go one step up for like an X amount of dollars. So, and it's been doing me justice so
Man.
far.
God damn, do you remember how much you bought that thing for?
I do not.
Because currently it's selling for almost $1,000.
Oh, I did not buy it for that. Like, not even like half that. I got it for less than half that.
Yeah, because I was sitting here going, because the GPU market's fucking nuts right now.
Mhm.
It's fucking stupid. But yeah. It's...
Well, I sent Garrett a text, so he knows.
Okay.
So if he wants, he will jump on and just head on in.
Yeah, yours edges mine out.
Whoa, whoa.
I feel like more of a last time on D&D? Tell us, Mike. Tell us what happened last time on D&D.
Who, me?
No. The other Mike.
The other mic that's muted.
Yes, the
and put it off your
non-player.
text.
Please tell us what happened last week on D&D.
Yes, Mr. Watts, could you elaborate the story that we've gone thus far?
Recap of D&D. Daniel puked in a bucket after drinking too much alcohol. That's the usual case. That's what I'm assuming happened. That's about it.
That's about it.
Okay.
That's all you needed to know.
Yep.
Continue on. Actually, surprisingly, Daniel is not the alcoholic in our group.
Good song.
And that's all the music I put in because I figured we would start right about now.
Let's see. What is it? Just Rob we're waiting for?
Pretty much.
Did we message him yet?
Good question.
I mean,
Sounds like
I
a no.
told him anybody want to play tomorrow night. He said he was down.
Alright, then I'll just shoot him a quick message.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like he doesn't know we're playing.
I know.
Let me put it that way.
I'm. Maybe he's in the middle of something like you said. And he forgot.
Yeah, that
Just
you're
like,
probably
Hey,
right.
bro, waiting on you.
You guys want me to keep loading music in, or are we okay with
Go
that?
for it. Go for it.
Okay, I'm just gonna do this. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
I like how Mike was. You started off strong there with telling us what was going on, and you're just like, the tree lands of purple leaves, the sun will never set, and then a lone tavern set on the forgotten land. A tavern with no alcohol. Just, no, it's some fairies or something. I muted the bot a long time ago, yeah. Okay. He'll be on in just a minute.
Hamish.
There he is.
Yes, I'm here.
There you are.
All right. Since you're here, I'm gonna go ahead and turn down this bot. I'm not gonna turn them off. But we're gonna turn them down to like 10%. Okay. So Mike's already done the recap for us in chat, text version. So yeah, we'll go ahead and just roll from there. So currently we have Hernest, Ricker, and Genesis, who have just been shrunken down and have entered a fairy village, while Tovrak is coming out
Yeah,
from
cute.
under. Tovrak is coming out from the bottom areas after investigating around, and Hernest has just, or sorry, not Hernest, Leon has just ascended up some sketchy ass stairs.
Sketch.
And I believe when we were ending our last session, we were talking to Leon. So let's go ahead and start with you, sir. What do you do? Being your crying baby.
It's in deep thought.
You open the door ahead of you. Excellent. You enter this little room, and it looks like maybe at one time this
What the
was
fuck, Mouse?
a kind of like the leader of the club's room, maybe like a private suite. You see that there were some things here to add some glowy effects and enchantments around the room. However, most of them have now died out, long gone, and are very firmly affixed to the wall. You do notice, however, that as you go in here, there seems to be the tattered remains of a very nice blanket that does have some magical properties to you. You pick up the comforter and strap it around you, tie the two little corners together, and you have yourself a very tattered cloak. Go ahead and add to your inventory glow-in-the-dark cloak. Yeah. And then I'm gonna write a note for myself right now, but I had an idea of what to make this as an item, but I just kind of short notice on this session, so I haven't made it yet.
Okay.
Okay. Do you do anything else when you're in this room? There is not a mirror. There is the bed, two nightstands, a ruined bookshelf, and that's about it. I will have you go towards the next door, but I'm not going to have you continue yet. I'm going to go down to Tovrak. Tovrak, you had just finished investigating the bottom rooms, and you're coming out to the main dance floor.
Yeah, my fucking mouse is not working, so...
All I heard was yeah.
Yeah, my mouse is not working, so... I think the fucking wheel is broken.
Okay, give
And
me a
that is
second.
why I'm not able to do anything.
Quick pause, let me troubleshoot her mouse real quick.
So it was working. Then I guess I'll just walk around and check whatever this thing is out.
All right. You come over to the little stage area, and go ahead and make an insight check for me. See if you can deduce what this was.
5. I'm gonna flip a desk tonight.
Flip a
Likely. But not these desks, because all these desks are firmly mounted into the floor. You kind of take a look over at the crystals in front of you, and you see that they too are firmly mounted onto the floor. But that is not as much as you see here.
I guess I just keep looking.
All right. And I'm gonna go ahead and actually put you on pause right there. And then we're gonna go to Harnessed, Rooker, and Genesis. Gentlemen, you have just been shrunken by this little pesky pixie, and shrunken you down into this little fairy village. The fairy village itself is comprised of various things that you would find in and around the tavern. So the houses are built out of little mugs. You see that some people look like they use some of the padding from the pillows as like some like stuffing in between to kind of hold things up together. Seems that there's some plates that are kind of in the makeshift thing to make like the center of town, etc., etc. Point is, it's a very small village that's kind of ramshackle put together. I do believe Genesis, Rooker, you guys were kind of on the outskirts, and Hernus, you were in the dead center. So, gentlemen, you've just been shrunken down. What do you do?
Why do I keep following you guys? Oh my god, I have been trained to do something else, and now I'm the size of an insect here. Like, I go through more BS with you guys, and I've been in battlefields all over the countryside here, and I've not seen nearly as much of this crazy shit.
Can I look at the pixies slash fairies and
Currently on the
go,
outskirts,
y'all got any
there's no
gags?
fairies around to go and ask for gags.
And I run towards town then to find me a fairy.
All right.
I'm about to gag me.
You go,
someday.
you go and ignore Genesis and run towards town to go and find yourself either a fairy or a gag, whichever happens first.
Wow.
So Genesis, you see Rooker just kind of ignore you and goes running into town. What do you do?
Fucking prick. Alright. So I started heading into town to look for Harness.
I'm assuming Rooker's running, so are you keeping up with Rooker, or are you just kind of like fucking? You just kind of
I'm
begrudgingly.
kind of like a
walk?
big fuck it whatever, and kind of like stride, not really running after him, just like taking my time.
All right, so you kind of casually stroll towards town, like fucking god damn it, like
Basically.
I'm so over this shit. Like, God, I used to be such a simple mercenary. I thought I knew everything. I come here and it's like, what the fuck?
Basically, yeah.
Rooker starts running to town. Harness, what are you doing?
So I'm in the center of town. I kind of like at first I'm in awe of the fact that I was just shrunk and into this little town made of every house daily household items. And kind of look around like I guess I do a quick perception check to see if am I alone or do
Okay,
I
go
need to
ahead
do
and
a perception check?
go ahead and do a perception check, sure.
Okay. Let's see here. Oh, perception. That's right, not good with perception. I got a
No, good
13.
All right. So again, the city is made mostly of household items. Like they use forks for like lampposts, and there's a plate for like the center of town with like a couple haphazard things kind of thrown on there to kind of make like a center shrine. Um, but as you're looking around town, you do see that it looks like that most of the inhabitants are actually in their homes right now, and you actually see a few heads kind of peeking out from doors and windowsills, like, "Oh, look, stranger," and they're like kind of scared and not sure on who this stranger is.
Gotcha. Do I see the fairy that struck me? What was her name? Was it Elizabeth or Liz? Or is it something completely different?
Your DM's terrible and actually didn't take that note. So let's do this. Her name is Aqua. How about that?
Aqua? Alright.
Bakwa.
Do I see Aqua?
You do not see Aqua currently.
Okay. Well, I guess, I don't know. So I guess I'm gonna just start kind of exploring the town. Just kind of walk around, minding my own business.
Okay.
I guess if I see a building that looks semi-important, that looks like, like a town hall or something, I'll gravitate towards that.
Okay. So I'm gonna say that you're starting to you took in your surroundings a little bit and you start walking around. At this point, Rooker's catching up to you.
Already? Wow, okay. Boy's fast.
I'm fast as fuck, boy.
Fast as
Well,
fuck,
if you
boy.
consider that he's taking a dash action, that's what,
Yeah, no, it's
80
fine.
feet. So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
close enough.
he can probably in like, and that's in like 6 seconds, which
Yeah.
is kind of ridiculous. But still though, yeah, he can manage to get there pretty quickly with a
Alright.
full dash. So yeah, he catches up to you.
All right, then. Well, Rooker, I see they invited you in as well.
I will relay it was somewhat against my will, and I'm not too happy about it. I believe Genesis is, somewhere behind me. I'll
Gotcha.
kind of thumb over my shoulder, and you wouldn't happen to have a gag on you, would you? This fucker won't shut up.
You know I can always make something, but unfortunately, I don't know if I should at the moment. Uh, but yeah, yeah. Let's just keep on walking, shall we?
Sure.
And is
Alright,
there
well,
like, is there like any like shops?
Um, yeah, I'll say with your 13 perception that you start seeing like little signs that have like symbols on it where you see like there's like little swords, there's looks like a little shield on another one that has like a potion vials, stuff like that.
Okay.
Um, as you're like walking around, you kind of get like maybe a little too close to one of the buildings.
Mhm.
There's a little poof of sparkles in front of you, and Aqua appears.
Ah, hello.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing actually all right. This is a lovely place.
Well, thank you. We tried our best. Now,
She goes and says like,
I know that it's like I shrunk you down, blah blah blah, but we worked really hard on this place, and we really didn't want you to like break anything.
That's fair enough. I think this actually will make things a lot easier.
I agree. As she kind of flutters her wings in front of you. She's like,
If you don't mind, I would like to wait and make sure that because I know there's a couple other people nearby. I would kind of like for them to arrive as well before we start doing our little tour.
That's fair enough.
and she
I guess
does like a little twinkle. And as she says tour, she gets like a little uncomfortably close to in front of you.
I kind of lean back, but I try not to be rude. I'm just like, okay, just maybe it's a fairy custom. Just let her do her thing.
You get this. I'm not even gonna have it. You roll an insight check. You can just tell that she's just pure like energy, bubbly. So
Yeah,
it's just her being like overly friendly.
gotcha. And with that, I just take what like a half a step back. To
Yeah, and
reestablish the space. Like, all
she
right.
giggles. She's like, so she's like, go ahead, take a look in at our website, and I will go ahead and start informing the townsfolk. And as soon as the rest of your friends arrive, we'll go ahead and make um, acquaintances.
Oh, very good. I guess Brooker and I will wait for Genesis, and we'll start there.
She gives you a wink. She giggles, and she disappears as quickly as she came. And with that, let's go ahead and talk to Leon. Leon, I'm assuming you're going into the next door. All right. You go into the next door and you find yourself in a kind of beat up, ramshackled office. Um, there's a couple chairs that are very much displaced and beat up. There's a coffee table in the middle that is missing a leg, so it's kind of thrown off to the side. Some candles had fallen onto the floor. Large couch that, for the most part, is actually in like pretty good condition considering the rest of the furniture you've seen and the rest of the place. But it's like it's serviceable. Anything of immediate interest on top of anything. Well, we'll get to that. In front of you, there's a desk, and this desk has some old parchments and stuff on there. A lot of them taken up by time, so like been very much weathered. But there's one book of note that's in the middle that seems to be very much preserved. Um, and next to it, you see a bottle of ink and a quill in it that also looks like it has not been disrupted by time. You look at the book. So the book, maybe not to your surprise, is actually uncommon. The common, and you go and look at it, and it appears to be a sort of like a journal slash ledger. So it's a book that has like some scribblings in there of expenses, maybe like someone just like kind of like scratchbook where they just quickly do math and stuff, but it's kind of partially a ledger and partially someone's diary of whoever used to run this joint. He says this may be important. I should show Ernest. And he takes the book. Oh, and the quill. All right. You go ahead and take all 3. Go ahead and add them to your inventory.
Ah, fuck, I wanted that one.
Anything a person would, oh, with ADD would notice. Maybe not
I like
particularly.
I like how you had to describe that.
All right, you move on to the next room. You grab your stuff, move on to the next room, and as you move into the
Oh my
next
god,
room,
did
you
you already
see
get a new
immediately
character
to your
model?
left Tolvrak. You also see immediately in front of you what appears to be
I guess I need to read
kind of
now.
like a lounge space with a bunch of couches. There's a beat up table with a chair to the left of you, and then the rest of the room. Yeah, hookahs. You run to the nearest hookah. And I'm gonna go ahead and say that since Leon came into the room, Tovrak, you see Leon come into the room, not even acknowledge you, and run straight for a hookah.
Oh, hi, yes, it's great to see you too. No, I have found nothing. Actually,
Just
that's
looks
not entirely
distracted.
inaccurate. I have found some things.
He says hi.
Hey, I found, a locket. Oh, wait, actually, I did find something for you. And I walk over to Leon and I hand him the sealed bottle of top shelf whiskey that I found earlier. God damn it.
I know you said you have a crying baby. Could you like maybe try to talk and see how bad crying baby is?
What? He's like, hey, bud.
Also,
Hey,
I
how
mean,
you
he's gotta be
doing? What
quiet
you
at some
doing?
point.
Oh, now you got aggro. Cool.
Why, fag?
He says thank you. I looked for a bottle for like 5 minutes.
Yes, I think I found that one in one of the private suites. I also found a. What else did I find? I found a. Oh, I found a key. I'm not quite sure what this is going to be useful for just yet, but I imagine it will be useful for something. Oh, I found a ring of. I think some magic. Not quite sure what that's all about, but I found that. Oh, and this locket with the picture of somebody in it. Which is quite nice, actually.
It's so weird.
Help you with it. What are we doing? Also, where did everybody else go? Did you see anybody up here?
Just cheers to smoke hookah.
Can can't really blow fire anymore, so might not be able to help you with that. Anyway, where is everybody else? Oh, you are the first that I have seen
Alright.
too since we split up.
So you guys are carrying on this conversation, talking about the hookah. We're gonna go back inside the bubble here. So it's been a minute. You guys have kind of like been standing in this like circle of town, kind of waiting, and immediately, right in front of you, Hernes, Aqua appears again, and she's like, "All right, so question for you."
Go ahead, Aqua. What's up?
She goes and like she gestures, kind of back behind her a little bit, and you see like the fog around the city dissipate for a little second, and you see full-grown Leon and Tovrak talking, looking over the hookah on the outskirts, and she says, "Would these be your friends?"
Yes, they would be.
Well, what do you say we have them join us?
Yeah. I mean, if you can get them to, that's the real trick.
She giggles again and disappears. As Tovrak and Leon, as you guys are talking about this hookah and trying to decipher this, you start seeing from like around the middle of the carpet this like bright glowing light, kind of like dancing around.
That looks kind of fun. Was that here when you came up here?
And he immediately gets lost in the moment. No.
That wasn't here when you came up here. I want to do like a Arcana check on it.
All right, go ahead and do an Arcana check. As you're doing this Arcana check on it, you see the little light getting kind of closer to you, and then backing away. And then it gets up to real close to you again, and then it starts slowly backing away.
I got a 10.
Yeah, you're definitely getting magic vibes off of it, but that's about it.
You're like, hit it with fire.
Leon apparently
Are you
goes towards it.
beckoning me to
Um,
follow you? And I start
so you-
inching closer to the light.
Yeah, as does Leon, who's like, "I'm not gonna touch it," and he goes and starts inching
I'm not
towards.
gonna touch it.
You guys start inching towards the light, and as you do, you feel this like the air get a lot thicker, and you kind of like almost go through like the same kind of sensation of the portal. But as you do, this little fairy town starts giving way, and you start to see this little fairy town. Both of you make a perception check for me.
13.
Excuse me. 16 for Leon.
The brim of my
Yeah,
hat looks
so I'll say
so
this good enough.
big.
You guys get to this little fairy town, you start looking it over, and you're like, ooh, the same descriptions that I gave before about the fairy town go here.
I wasn't listening.
But you both notice, in the middle of town is a very, very small version of your friends Hernes, Genesis, and Rucker.
What's up?
Oh! I found you.
I'm gonna take one arm and kind of just wave.
How did you get in there?
Bad choices.
Bad
So you-
How are we
choices.
tying up where they can still
Ru-
hear us, or is it?
you're like squeaky voices to them, but
Okay.
yeah, they can't hear you.
okay.
No, as soon as you ask like how'd you get in there, the fairy known as Aqua appears in your face, and she says like this, and she starts swirling around both you and Leon as little glitters of sparkles start surrounding you.
Do I hear 5?
And as she continues to circle around you guys start to shrink. Looks like Tovrak, as you are shrinking, are you running towards in the middle of town?
Oh, I don't know. I was just moving my character closer.
Oh, Leon says he does. So Leon starts moving towards the middle of town, and he starts shrinking. And I'm gonna say you do too. Is you go and you both start shrinking down. I'm gonna go ahead and shrink you guys too. Why not? Boop. So there you go. You guys see a very Rooker, Genesis, Harness, you guys see a very, very tall Leon and Tovrak start approaching you, and it seems that like there's a weird perspective thing going on where it's like they almost have the same perspective the whole time they're moving towards you until they're the same size as you as they get real close to you.
You're really far away, but when you get really close, you're the same height. Huh. I thought that was supposed to work the other way around.
Is it? I don't know.
No, well, you know, if something's far away, it looks really small. When you
Right.
get closer, it gets bigger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. So anyway, yes. Now that you're all shrunken down, you guys, Tovrak and Leon, you guys find yourself in the middle of this little town, kind of thrown together with various kitchenware, things you might find in a pub, but kind of tinkered and built to where it can actually be turned more into a village.
I'm gonna go.
Leon wants to know if you have the booze and hookah still.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say no. Well, you might have the booze if you added it to your inventory.
Well, I know you went straight towards the hookah, and I know you're limited by typing, so
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and say that, yeah, you went and grabbed the hookah.
Welcome, guys. What took you so long?
Well, you know, lack of communication was one thing. Didn't exactly know that you had been pulled into a magical fairy town in the middle of a... I'm not 100% sure what exactly this is. Club? Brothel?
I've been calling it the tiny verse.
That was not what I was talking about, FNG.
Mike,
Well, it's more
or,
like World of Bible.
Leon looks to you, Harness, and says that he found a book.
Oh, interesting. Let me take a look at it. And I take the book. And I
And he
open it up.
gives.
And I just do a quick skim. And do I...
Again, it's a book. It's very well preserved, considering like how everything else in here is like completely trashed and torn to shit. And it appears to be a mix of a ledger, someone's chicken scratch like side book, like, you know, if you just have a piece of paper that you just need to scratch something on real quick,
Right.
along with a diary.
Gotcha. Well, I start, I kind of like reading it. But you know, as I said, I'm just kind of skimming through it.
Okay.
Not my full attention to it right now.
And as you skim through it, Aqua appears a reasonable distance away this time, and is like, "All right, the whole gang's here, yeah."
I believe
Yep.
so.
And I did not come prepared, so.
You are not prepared.
Oop, she's a little big.
And then Illidan shows up. Oh my god, she's a giant!
We're just gonna say she's that right now.
She's adorable.
Yep, she's a little pond.
What an adorable pawn.
So she says, okay, so let's go ahead and make acquaintances. So, first of all, I already told these three,
And she looks to you, Tovrak and Leon, and she says,
the reason you're shrunk down is because I don't want you to damage anything. As you can imagine, it's a very sensitive thing for bigger people. And so we try to make sure that it's well preserved. So that's why you're shrunk. Hello. And she's like, and my name is Aqua. I am what you might call the mayor of this little town.
and she gives a little wink over at over towards Genesis, and she says, which, by the way, the town is named Starglen.
Okay.
Leon says, milady, and she's like,
Oh, you don't have to be so formal. I appreciate it though.
and she says,
So, here's our little fairy town, and I can tell that you guys are not from around here. And so I figured it might be a good idea to, instead of trying to thwart you off the path, that it might be a better idea to have you guys come down here and maybe acquaint yourselves.
What gave it away?
she just kind of gives a shrug. She's like,
As a fairy, I can see people's auras, and I can tell that your auras is definitely not fey.
All right.
very similar to the rest of the people that come by.
That makes sense to me.
How often do you see new travelers like us?
Oh, well, I mean, they bring people over to this realm all the time, and usually they just walk by through the path, but you know, you're the first people who have actually come in here and investigated, so I figured there was something different about you guys.
Well, we do like to be different.
So most people, as in most people don't stop by, as in they don't come inside the club, or as in they see you and yet they pay you no mind and just keep going.
Oh, nobody ever comes inside Illumination.
Illumination!
So how many people do you see pass by then?
She thinks about it and she's like, well, maybe once every like month or so I might see some people walking by, and it's usually a group of like 3 to 4 who go and get escorted past our little city.
Do you see any of the same people coming out?
Usually people go one direction, they do not go the other.
But you haven't seen anybody return.
Not
Interesting.
currently.
So from what we've been told, the Fey world is in trouble.
She kind of gives you a weird look and she's like, well, maybe in other parts, but you know, we're very small, so we don't see very much. We don't make much contact with the outside world.
Puns.
Alright. Well, if you wouldn't mind,
Anyway,
we could use your help. Kind of.
oh, she like flutters and she's like, it's great. That's why I brought you here. How may I help you?
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I think getting just start off the lay of the land. We're kind of assuming that it's very similar to our own, but we weren't sure where like towns and other places might be. We weren't quite sure where to go to begin with.
Well, she kind of gives like a little look of like, darn. She's like, there's only one fairy who's ever actually been out in the world. And you probably, and she like looked over at Rooker and she's like, and you guys have already met him. Cricket!
Again?
And she yells out Cricket and does a little like whistle, and you guys hear some silence, and she's just like, Cricket, come out here. And you hear kind of back in the distance from where you got Turnus, Rooker, and Genesis came, you hear, yeah, dang nabbit, you fucking, what the fuck you want from me? Oh, son of a bitch. And it gets closer and closer, and the hillbilly fairy that was like talking shit to you guys about don't step on my house and blah blah blah, he comes around the corner and it's like, what you want, Aqua?
Oh, this guy.
And he's like, these people need a little bit of the lay of the land, and I'm hoping that you can give them that coaching. And he goes and looks at you and kind of like huffs, and he's like, what you mean? What you want? You want to know what's out there?
Yeah, preferably where the other visitors are taking people.
Well, I don't know much about that. I'll tell you what. Like, most of the time, people go by, they don't really come back. I can tell you that I know that the people who escort come from the Unsullied Court.
The Unsullied Court.
I would say we're not too familiar with all the different courts and
Oh, gee.
factions out here. So yeah, you might have to start from the beginning. My friend.
He kind of like flutters over, like, you know, he's an old age cricket, so he doesn't fly very well, but he flutters over towards Aqua and he's like,
Okay, so we need to give these guys a crash course, is what you're telling me. That
Yeah.
sounds right to me. All right.
he goes and settles down. He's like, okay, well, we might as well. Aqua, if you wouldn't mind. She's like, sure. She goes and gestures her hands forward, and suddenly, kind of like these like toadstool stools appear for all of you.
I sit.
And Cricket goes
I
ahead and
planted.
says, "Lol." Cricket go ahead and says, okay. So, the Feywild is a kind of like a mirror image of the material plane, as is Shadowfell, as is all the other planes. The Unsullied Court and the Sullied Court. These are basically two warring factions. See, they're both Eladrin, they both have similar ideals, but they don't see eye to eye. And so, the Sullied Court, aka the Summer Court, will be found down to the south. They are people who generally want the good for all, though at their own
kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Peril?
Benefit?
Benefit. That's kind of the better way of putting it. Good job on Dairy Worker. Yeah, so they kind of see, they want things to be all gracious and good and wonderful, but on their terms. And so, for the most part, you go down there and you could be a nice civilization, it's probably beautiful, but until you go and you cross the Sully Queen, that's where you start having issues. Now, the Unsullied Court, they kind of get the butt end of things, right? So, they're also known as the Winter Court. Cold, it's dark, and
Winter is coming.
they're a bunch of, let's just say a little hostility over there.
Wait, they're what? You broke up.
Hostility.
Hostile.
They're not friendly, in other words. And so, essentially, you got these two sides that don't really like each other. And currently, because our beloved queen, or god, I should say, is gone missing, there is a tension between the two. So even though you might find yourselves as a neutral party, you might have certain people coming over, knocking on your door, and trying to have you swear fealty to one or the other. Make sense?
Mm.
Now that being said, there are a couple neutral provinces. To the west, you got yourselves the City of Stars, Astrazalan, and then over more towards, like, not too far from here, you have the Bear King that takes a residence in the ruins of Cinder Peak. Now, these two factions have remained neutral for this long, but eventually they'll probably get taken into one side or the other.
You said the
Now-
Bear King?
A Bear King, that's right.
And what's his temperament like?
Oh, he's a real chill dude. Like,
Okay.
he's a real chill dude. He kind of goes with the vibe. He has himself an entire court of Dryad that go and listen to him and take his commands.
Mhm.
However, I will warn you. Just about everybody in the Feywild has some kind of ulterior motive. Now, I'll say right now, and it's immediately Aqua kind of jumps in front of him, is like, and I'll tell you guys, our motive is that we just didn't want you to destroy our village. We're small, we don't have that much impact, so being nice to you is kind of the best way that we were able to make sure our village doesn't get destroyed.
Alrighty. Well, I hope that's all.
Cricket was just like, yeah, it's pretty much it. It's just like we're not fighters. We're not necessarily, able to really defend. We have to hide ourselves with illusions and stuff. So, for the most part, that's kind of that cat out of the bag. So, indeed, that's kind of the lay of the land. I would imagine. Let's see. Sorry, Leon said something. One of the factions is not Shadow Belt faced. Well, I tell you, not really. Like, one of the factions, like, now I'll say that this has been a war brewing for a long time. I'm not going to rule out that that would never happen. But typically, most people don't really agree with what's going on with Shadowfell. Shadowfell is almost the complete opposite of the Feywilds. While Feywilds might be, for the most part, pretty harmonious, but I mean, it's not without our tribulations. The Shadowfell is a whole nother level of evil and terribleness, and just if you were to go and say that the material plane was like a person, the Feywild might be the little angel on your shoulder. The Shadowfell might be the little devil on your shoulder. You know what I mean?
We heard that Shadowfell is actually trying to move in on your territory, though.
I mean, for the most part, we trying to keep into our ruins here, so we don't go much outside. We don't
Gotcha.
really go and investigate. So if there is something like that, it's not happening in our general vicinity.
Ain't got a penguin in it.
Gotcha.
Leon asked this pretty boy lied to us.
I mean, I don't think so, Leon. It sounds like these fairies are actually just very secluded in a way, so they probably wouldn't know about the day-to-day aspects.
I mean,
not.
don't I look over to Cricket and Aqua, and I go, please don't take this the wrong way as I explain it to my friends, but obviously they live in a much, much smaller world, and I don't think they wish to get involved in the day-to-day dangers of what happens outside of this club.
Cricket spits on the ground and says, "Darn tootin'."
Darn tootin'.
Well, alrighty then. Well, it
Keep your
sounds
nose
like
out of trouble, and no trouble comes to you. You know what I mean?
now, Cricket. You said that the Bear King was the closest place to us, right?
Oh,
You said
absolutely. So he's going to be there, the mountains, kind of behind us, and he kind of gestures over to the west. Go on the other side of them mountains, head a little bit south, and you'll find yourself the ruins of Cinder Peak.
Now with all your travels, Cricket, you wouldn't by chance be able to jot up a map for us or something like that, would you?
Well, I probably could.
That would be really great.
That would be
if you could.
wonderful.
All right. Well, you know what? I'll get to that. All right. And he goes and looks at Aqua. He's like, I'll get to that, and you help him out with anything else, I guess. And he goes and kind of half flutters off. He kind of lands and he starts walking a bit, and then he tries to flutter again. He lands again, and he goes into a local shop nearby. So then Aqua steps up again. He's like, "All right, so that's a little bit of the lay of the land, a little bit of information about the Feywild. Now, I will say that the other thing that Cricket didn't touch on is that the Feywild does indeed have some dangerous creatures. So it's best to not be ready for trouble. Now, looking at y'all, it looks like you have an idea of what you know you're doing in a fight, but I'm getting the sense that you don't necessarily know how, if that makes sense."
Yeah, you be hitting the nail right on the head there. You see, these aren't our original bodies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which have made things a little more challenging.
Well, that's news to me. I didn't know that kind of thing happened.
Yeah, we
Oh,
surprised
great. And here I
ourselves.
was hoping you could teach us how to use our new abilities.
Oh, I probably could, actually.
Say what now?
I probably could. Now let's take a look here and take a look at y'all. So she goes and starts like fluttering like around and like looking y'all up and down. It's like, uh-huh. Mm-hmm. She gets like real close to Ernest, and she's like, give me a second here. And she goes and does like this little wave, and a little spell pops out of her hand. She's like, oh, okay. She kind of goes and flutters around again. She stops, kind of looks at Rooker over. She kind of gets like real close and starts to expecting like down near your crotch and stuff like that. And she's like, oh, and she goes and points at the thieves' tool. She's like, got it. All right.
The fuck did you get?
And she's like, all right. Well, come on over and let's go see some of the town folk. She goes and like lets out she goes and like does like a little twiddle of her fingers at her throat, and very loudly. I'm not gonna do it to blow out your ears, but basically she says, "All right, people, come on out. We got some people to talk to." And as she says that, you start seeing very slowly fairy folk start coming out, fluttering out, and just a mass of fairy folk start kind of surrounding you guys, making like you guys are currently in this little circle. They make a bigger circle around you, probably close to about 50, 60 bodies.
Oh wow.
And they all start muttering around themselves, like, "Oh shoot, what are these people?" Da, da, da. So she goes ahead and she's like, "All right." So she goes over and she looks over at Ernest and she's like, "So I could tell that you are a sorcerer. It's a very fine thing to have. But you deal in a little bit of psionic powers, I would think. So, Foxglove!" And this little fairy comes out. It's this little, slightly older fairy, has a little robe, and she's like, "Yes, my lady?" And she's like, "Stop with the my ladies, jeez. Foxglove, I need you to go and teach this man a little bit about sorcery, a little bit of psionic powers." And she's like, "Right away." Foxglove comes up to you, Ernest, and she's like, "Come into my home here, and I'll give you a little."
Say lead on.
Aqua in the ass, and she disappears right when you swing and reappears, and she's like, "Now that's not very cordial."
We just being friendly around here. And I throw
Oh
my arm
my.
around. I throw my arm around Maple.
Maple
Okay.
is very much like, ooh, too friendly. As she kind of like waddles a little bit towards off to the side.
Tovrak covers his eyes, looks down, and shakes his head in disapproval.
All right,
And
and
I
then
will.
she's
Luckily, my character's already gone, so whatever.
yeah, right.
Yeah, my character be triggered at this point.
And then finally she comes up to you, Tovrak, and she's like, "Now, you will probably have the easiest time out of all of them. As you see, you're a druid. Druid deal in the powers of nature, and while it might be a different plane, nature's the same across the board. So,
But what if I was a rogue in the mortal plane? So I know a lot of stabby. I don't know a lot about green things.
well, that's what we're here for. So, let me go ahead and introduce you to your teacher." And she gestures over to a guy, and she's like, "Sprinkles, I'm gonna need your help with Druid." Sprinkle comes up, it's like, "Oh, what up? How's it going?"
I'm sorry, sprinkles?
Yes.
You sound mildly like somebody that I knew in the mortal plane.
I'll tell you what, honey, that's just the DM messing up his voices, but it's all good. Let's go ahead and head on over.
Very well.
I know, right? Silly goose.
Silly.
Silly goose.
And he goes and like kind of like goes to gesture for your hand and like grab your hand.
I follow.
Yeah, and he goes and he starts skipping. And then
Does
he
he skip in
realizes,
the air? Like, is he fluttering? And
yeah, he goes to try to skip, immediately realizes that Tovrak's not skipping, so that he just starts fluttering and starts skipping as they go flutter.
Cool.
All right. So go ahead, Ernest. You go off to the side. You start talking to Foxglove, and Foxglove is like, "All right. So, with the innate powers of a sorcerer, sorcerer is kind of a mixed bag, you see, because it all depends on what your background is. Now, you had psionic powers, which I'm sure you probably don't know much. But if you happen to know any spells, I would like to see it."
With that, I'm like, all right, very well. And I look towards something. Kind of look at kind of like anything that I can use, like a target.
He's like, "Oh, well, if it's something offensive, we should probably go back outside real quick."
Yeah. So we take a step outside, and I guess I don't know. I just do lightning lure pretty much. So I
You go
cast
ahead
it.
and you cast Lightning Lure up into the air, and he's like, "Oh, that's a good one. That one's known as Lightning Lure."
Yeah, I somehow triggered it when I was trying to set a fire.
Oh, you were probably thinking something along the lines of that you needed a spark.
I did, in fact.
Yeah, so you were thinking about needing lightning, and that's how it manifests. See, sorcerers have this innate ability to learn magic and just cast magic. It's like a bloodline thing. And what makes sense to me is the reason that you had your psionic powers is because your previous, shall we say, your previous body had some psionic know-how. Maybe if you didn't know it, you did have some trace of it.
With that, I
So,
instantly take a moment and I think of my dad.
yeah.
I'm like, all right.
He's like, "So let's go ahead and now I have an idea what kind of spells what kind of spell you know. Let's go ahead and just go through the list and let's see if we can get these fleshed out." And so I'm gonna not do this for everybody, but he starts going through kind of like this list of like, all right, so maybe you know this spell. Try thinking about like say for example,
Is it a
he'll be
training?
going-
Pretty much a training montage.
Yeah, so it's going to be a training montage for everybody, but he's going to be basically, okay, well, let's try this spell. Like, close your eyes and start thinking about fireflies.
Okay.
And as you do, and you start thinking of fireflies, he's like, now, I want you to hold out your hand, and I want you to say, like, do this gesture with your hand and say this incantation. You do so, and he's like, now open your eyes, and you see that there's a bunch of little lights all dancing around you, and you learn dancing lights.
Awesome.
And he goes through this whole thing with you, and by the end of it, you have learned all the spells that you know on your character sheet.
Sweet beans. With that, which each one I obviously play with. Dancing lights, make them twirling around. Minor illusion, I make some stuff. I don't really do much of the offense spells, but yeah, I just kind of get used to it pretty much.
Yeah. Next we go over to Kenzie teaching Kelsing. Kenzie goes and Kenzie.
Sorry, Kenzie. I thought I heard Kelsey. I was like, yeah.
No. So Kenzie starts going over and she pulls open this large book and she's like, now, do you have a book like this?
I don't think so. Let me check my pockets here. What the hell? How the hell did this happen?
So she giggles and she's like, all right, so yeah, in this book, normally you have to write it in. And she starts explaining how your wizard spell book works, and she actually ends up seeing that yours is kind of incomplete, so she gives you another one that has like leaves for the vines and stuff like that. Flower petals maybe for the pages, and it's all spelled out perfectly on how to use all these various spells. And she says that whenever you go and you need to cast a spell, you need to prepare it in order to have it ready for the day. And in this book, it actually has instructions on how to cast fairy spells. So you guys go ahead and you dig through the book. There's a couple spells that you might have messed up on your first time casting it, and she gives you guidance, and she's like, oh, it's not Leviosa, it's Leviosa. Stuff like that. But she goes and gets through it, and by the end of your guys' training montage, you have learned all the spells on your character sheet.
So now I can shoot fire, create illusions, and all that stuff?
That's right.
Hey, Dobrak, where you at, buddy? Hey, Birdman, come on, buddy. Let's high five. Come here, man. Where you got? Where you at?
We now go to Leon, who is with Indigo. Indigo goes and he's goes back into his little house. And he goes and starts shooting the shit a little bit with Leon as he's putting on this like kind of like this walnut armor. Grabs himself like an acorn shield for like his buckler. He has like this rigid leaf blade, and he's like, now that we've had a little bit, let's go and spar and let's teach you the ways of being a tank. Sounds good. And you guys go back out into the middle of the square, and he starts sparring with you. You guys start going back and forth. You kind of find that the dance that you guys are doing with your spar is not too far off from what you were doing before, though a little less spells. He starts like at one point he goes and casts it down on you, and he actually casts smite. Yep, he goes and casts smite on you, and it does a little bit of damage, like probably like 3 points of damage. And he's like, now comes the first lesson. He goes to pick you up with one hand, and as he does, you feel your health regenerate to you. And he's like, now this is a spell called Lays on Hands. And he goes and explains how Lay on Hands works to you. He's like, now your next action, I need you to meditate. You go and you sit down and meditate with him. You go and you sit down and you start meditating to him, and he starts telling you, like, I want you to focus on a person's energy. I want you to feel it. I want you to almost know it. And as you start doing that, you start seeing the sense of, like, for the most part, that everybody around you has this good aura around you. And he's like, this is Divine Sense. And he goes and teaches you on how to cast Divine Sense. And you guys continue to go and spar a little bit, and you get a little bit more used to, like, okay, this isn't so much of a dance as it is you're just trying to be more of a wall, but some of the roguish actions that you did before translates a little bit to this. So by the end of this, you've learned all of your class features. Rooker, you go ahead and walk with Maple, who's still very kind of shy, and she's like, oh goodness, as you guys walk over to her little lab. And when she's in there, she pushes up her glasses and she's like, all right, I believe now it's time to teach you a little bit of tinkering and how things work.
I will astutely pay attention.
So she goes and she goes ahead and she's like is talking to you about how you can imbue tiny objects. And so she like picks up a pencil and like with a little flick of her wrist, she goes and makes it illuminate light, and she starts waving it around and showing like how you can, what you can do with that. She goes and then asks for your thieves' tools at one point.
I will hand them to her.
She goes and grabs your thieves' tools, and she goes back outside, and she goes to demonstrate how your thieves' tools are a way that you can go and channel your powers. So with her little thing, she goes and casts a spell with it, and then she gives it back to you, and they start going through the whole thing about think about this, think about that, and by the time of you go and trying 100 times, you finally get the spell Frostbite to cast. And she goes
Awesome.
and she starts clapping a little bit. She's like, yes! And you guys keep going through the rest of them until you learn Thunderclap and Catapult as well.
Does the thunderclap arouse the eardrums of anybody else in the party? Because obviously it's loud.
I'm going to say for like this instance, yeah, you make a really loud sound, you disrupt people nearby, but I'm not going to roll damage for everybody.
Right. I wouldn't say roll damage. But I just want to know if they
But
could.
definitely you make the large boom, getting a sound, and everybody's like, oh shit! Like looking over, what the fuck?
You know, kind
But-
of like that thunderstorm we had today.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she teaches you how to magically tinker, and I almost said tinkle, along with your spells. And she kind of teaches you the rest of the features that you have for your class. So you're now good to go. And finally with Tolrak, fucking Sprinkles here goes and he's like, all right, now first things first, we gotta do something about this. And he immediately starts trying to do like get up with you and trying to like alter things on your outfit and stuff. Do you
Hey, I really don't know where any of this came from. I was just kind of wearing it when I came through. Please stop touching me.
He's like, oh, don't mind me. I'm just making you look a little more druidic. And he goes and like starts touching
More
like little
druidic.
leaves and stuff into your like bracers and stuff like that.
These are kind of itchy. I never had this problem when I was a dragonborn with scales.
And he's like, oh, don't worry, we'll fix it, don't worry. And he goes and keeps like doing his thing and go whatever until like by the end of it you're looking like this fucking mobile tree and you're like, what the fuck? And he's like, now check this out. And he goes and does like this really gay like motion from top down, and these leaves go and kind of ingrate themselves into your armor and stuff, making this like fine leaf pattern. And very much giving you like the druidic look to yourself. But there's no actual like leaves sticking out or anything. It's all just patterns now on your armor.
Great.
Oh, you don't like that?
I guess I'm just still not used to whatever I am in this world.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. He's like, how about this? And he goes and like snaps his fingers, and all the print's gone. He's like, if you change your mind by the end of this, let me know.
Right.
All right. Well, let's go ahead. And he goes and he starts talking to you about the ways of nature and the way that the world communes with like one thing, kind of like basically like the Force kind of talk, where he just starts regaling you about like how everything is connected, and the trees speak with the rocks speak with the rivers. And he's like, with this like commune with nature, you have the ability to heal people who maybe not. And he goes and like it touches you on your shoulder, and you feel yourself. You're already at max health points, but you feel a little rejuvenated, a little more energy, and you're like, whoa. And so he goes and regales you on how to use healing hands.
Suppose that could be useful.
Indeed. Now, did you know anything before you came to me?
Oh, Idun taught me this spell
what
that
now?
would. My god, Idun, the Norse god of the spring forest.
He just kind of like bewilderment shakes his head, and he's like, I mean, whatever works for you, honey. All right. So, what did she teach you?
This one, and I pull out my hammer, and I cast Shillelagh on it.
And he's like, oh, that's a good one. Now, I love that. Yas. That's fantastic. All right, let's go ahead and see what other things we can make you learn. So he goes ahead and he starts going through a couple things, and he's like, oh, wait. You could go and enhance that mallet. Let's try something else. And he goes and it's like, channel that same energy that you did for that little shillelagh move. But I want you to think of the brightest light that you could think of.
I do that.
You channel that same energy to the light, and suddenly your hammer lights up in a very similar fashion to what you've seen with Sunny D in the past. He's like, oh, good, you do know that one. That spell is called Light.
Oh. Does it give... Does it do radiant damage, or does it just look nice?
I mean, it works like a torch. So basically, instead of you having to light up a torch, or if you find yourself in a dark place, you can go ahead and just cast this, and it'll go and give you light wherever you need it. Also,
Okay.
check this out. He goes and taps the light, and it changes to red. He taps it again, changes to purple, and he's like, isn't this fun?
Okay, again, I could see where that would be useful.
Alright, let's go ahead and go through some other things. You're a druid, so you probably shaped something. So he goes and, like, takes, like, a jug of water, puts it in front of you. He's like, try doing this on that. And as you do so, it doesn't do anything. He's like, He goes and tries a couple other things. He's like, oh, wait, come outside. Let's come outside.
I do that.
Wonderful. Now, I want you to come out here. I want you to go ahead and look at the dirt below you, right? I want you to look at this floor.
Sacred dirt.
Yeah, it's not really dirt. We're in a room, so it has to be wood. You know what I mean? Anyway, I want you to take a look at this wood here, and I want you to go and concentrate on it.
Yes.
Okay, now I want you to think about it and move it upwards.
I do that.
As you do it, the floor that you're concentrating on looks completely fine. It stays the same. However, the plate that's in the middle of the square, there's a little small chunk of it that starts floating up into the air. And he's like, how silly of me. Come on, let's go, let's go. And he kind of like runs over towards the plates.
I let out a heavy sigh and follow him.
As you do, the plate piece falls back down, right back into place. And he goes through and he starts telling you, do this, do that, do this. And you learn how to cast Mold Earth. While he's out there, he goes through the rest of your abilities, trying to figure out what it is. And you learn Absorb Elements, Cure Wounds, Earth Tremor, Night, Ice Knife, the rest of your abilities.
Yay.
And then finally, you guys go back inside, and you guys start talking back and forth. And over a course of like maybe a half hour or so, you get a pretty good catch of the Druidic language. It's actually pretty similar to Thieves' Camp. So you start getting a pretty good grasp on it. But he goes ahead and gives you a book in case you need to learn a little bit more along the way of the Druidic language.
Oh.
All right. And after everybody's little training montages, we come back and you guys
Playing the song "Eye of the Tiger." Eye of
Pretty
the
much.
tiger, it's the thrill of the fight.
So after a while, you guys get yourselves near the end of your training montage, and Aqua comes flooding around, seeing you guys' progress, and it's like, "Well, it looks like y'all have a pretty good grasp of things now."
Yeah, this has been great.
I
As
blew
I'm
up
sitting
so
there-
many trees.
As I'm sitting there with all my dancing lights, I'm having them like kind of flutter around and stuff like that.
And she goes and says, "All right, well, while you were working on that, Cricket came on by and gave me what you were looking for." And she's like, holds out this little leaf that's been rolled up, and she's like, "Who wants the map?"
I'll take that.
Yep, alright.
All right, volunteer. She goes and hands it off to you, Tovrek, and you see yourself a map very similar to the one that's over here in our actual D&D lobby. Though it's just of this area that kind of like where Umberhold was, which Umberhold was right about where the E is and the Feywild Trails. And it's just a nice little square, maybe a little off, but it still points to the direction of where the ruins of Cinder Peak are.
Thank you. So, it's been fun. You've been wonderfully helpful. Is there anything that fairies could need from outsiders to possibly repay you?
As you say that, Leon goes and spanks his mentor's ass and taking social cues from Rooker.
I'm not
Indigo-
sorry for them because they're responsible for themselves, but I am sorry.
Indigo goes like, "Oh fuck, good go team, yeah, all right." Alpha just like kind of shakes her head and she's like, "Well, I'll be honest with you. There's not much that we actually need in our little fairy town for the most part. Anytime we need anything, we kind of go and scavenge for it. So the only thing I might ask, if just so we don't have to scavenge for a little bit, is if you guys go out the building a little bit, go ahead and grab. There's some berry bushes off in the woods a little bit off the path. You just go and grab a couple handfuls and bring them back. That'd be nice."
Okay.
I mean, normally we have to go and evacuate like half the town to go out there and go get some berries. But if you guys just grab a few handfuls, that'll keep us good for a few days at least.
Sure, that sounds easy enough, and I mean, one or two of us could go do it quickly. I suppose if we all brought back berries, that would definitely keep you guys sustained for quite some time.
The unfortunate part of my magic is that I can shrink and grow other people. I can't do it with ourselves. It only works on people who are already big. Like if I went and did it with one of our other fairy folks, I would just make them super tiny and then bring them back to normal fairy size. So it doesn't really work that way.
That seems inconvenient.
I mean, inconvenient for me, great for you.
No, that's true.
I think we can easily do that for you guys.
Yeah,
Me
and
yourself,
there's
no
like
problem.
the only other thing I would ask is that you don't tell anybody that we're here, because try and mind our own business.
I've never even seen you before.
Well, I appreciate that, but at the same time, if you ever had an inclination to come back around and hang out with us fairy folks, we'd be more than happy to have you.
I do appreciate that. Any dangers or anything strange that we should watch an eye or keep an eye out for once we leave the club?
Well, immediately, probably not, but I was gonna warn you once you came back with the berries. So these unsullied folk, they do like to go and make sure that anybody that they bring over to the Feywild remains in their clutches. So there is I don't know if you might know what this is, but there's a gnoll that goes and patrols these parts. For the most part, we just call him the Hunter.
And we do like a history check to see if we know what a gnoll is.
Sure, go ahead. Because you guys have never encountered a gnoll in my adventures before.
Correct.
Okay.
Dirty 20.
Ooh, I got a 5.
History. Here we go. 11.
Gnolls are pretty vicious too. So
Gotta go back over here, see everybody else's roll. So we got 11, 5, 13, dirty 20. Leon has not rolled, but we'll just go with that.
And there's an 18. All right.
So, Genesis, Hernest, Rooker, you guys are kind of clueless on it.
Okay.
Leon, Tovrak, you guys do recall what a gnoll is. A gnoll is essentially a vicious, vicious hyena man. Let's see if I can give you a little more information here. Gnolls are feral humanoids that attack settlements along the frontiers and borderlands of civilization without warning, slaughtering their victims and devouring their flesh. Gnolls typically they're not necessarily pack hunters. They're not necessarily like they don't have to be in a group. They typically can be, but it doesn't have to be that case. You also know that a gnoll is definitely not friendly. Probably in the material plane, gnolls are just prone to just attacking things without question. They'd rather, attack first, ask questions later.
So Genesis, but with more bite.
Lol.
What?
Why are you so mean, Genesis?
Because it's easy.
Yeah,
and he's the
I
FNG.
I feel like his character. I don't know if it's at this point. I don't know if it's his character that just outright hates my character. If you legit got a problem with me, bro, I'm like,
I don't got a problem with you.
But anyway, gnolls. The other thing that I'll say Brittany because she did roll a dirty 20. You do recall that gnolls, they will fight until they can no longer fight anymore. So even when you think that they are defeated and they're done, they'll probably still come out with another attack before they truly go down.
Well, if there's a gnoll about patrolling, we should do our best to avoid him until we learn what's actually going on out here. Granted, we did receive a wonderful crash course, and I thank you so much for that. I don't quite think we're ready to take on something as ruthless as a gnoll. It will literally be trying to bite our legs off as it's dying. And probably succeed.
Aqua nods profusely. She's like, yes, I would absolutely go and advise that you avoid confrontation with the hunter. The hunter has himself 2 blink dogs, which if you don't know what that is, that's a creature of the Feywild. They're known for teleportation and being vicious little things. And this isn't not your normal gnoll. Like, this guy is the real deal. Like, there's a reason that they only have just the hunter out here and no one else. So I would profusely agree that if you do manage to come in contact with some blink dogs, there's a good chance that the hunter might be nearby, and so I would advise you to avoid such confrontation.
I certainly think we should do our best to do that until we further understand what's going on out here.
All right.
Sounds like a plan.
Now, the only other thing I could advise for you, in case you didn't want to go straight to the ruins of Cinder Peak, Cricket. And Cricket comes back around, and he's like, yeah, I made the map. What else you need? He's like, Cricket, you mentioned that there was a tavern that is friendly to everybody. And he's like, oh, yes, you're talking about the Green. The Green? I mean, that's what it used to be called back in the day. It might have a different name now, but if you go and you head up kind of north of these parts, um, maybe about half a day's journey from here, you'll go and encounter a little tavern that's off the side of the road. Now, most fey creatures will probably not be too kind to people not from the realm. You know, a lot of fey creatures will rather pull pranks on you or be tricky, or just kind of generally fuck with you. You know what I
I
mean?
would say, Aqua, are other fey creatures able to see our aura like you did?
She's like, well, I'm a very small creature. I am very magically inclined. I'm not going to say that every fey creature will be able to tell your aura, but I'll definitely say that, like, even with your altered bodies, we could tell you're not from around here.
Gotcha. So it would not be easy to hide who we are then.
No, typically not.
Is there any way that you could teach us to read somebody's aura, so that way it would help us know if they were to be friendly or hostile to us as we travel around?
Or maybe even better, see others from our material plane.
No, not really. That's something you have to learn via, like, usually fey magic. Um, at this point, Indigo pops up and he says, however, he slaps Leon on the back of the shoulder. He's like, I did teach him about his divine sense, so he would be able to tell you whether someone's good or evil.
That will be great. That will be very helpful.
And he's like, but the cricket goes and says, now I will say it used to be called the Green. I don't know if it's still the same name, but there's a tavern just north up here, and they are friendly just about everybody.
Well,
And
good to
it's
know.
like it's if you're gonna go and find a friendly face, it's gonna be there.
Alrighty then. Well, I think, are we ready to head out, guys, or is there anything else you want to ask?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I think we've learned everything we need to at this point.
Actually, one more thing.
One
Do you
more
happen to know
thing.
if there's any areas regarding the war struggle here that we should just outright avoid until we know better?
They go and kind of think about it. And it's like, now, when you say avoid the war, you mean like just not picking a side, obviously. Or are you talking about this Shadowfell thing you're talking about?
I mean, I would hate to stumble upon some sort of active battle in a battlefield. Would kind of like to just casually make it to where we're going without anybody really knowing that we are here.
Well, Cricket thinks about it for a second. He's like, well, I mean, obviously I can't tell you where battles are going to take place. But just about everybody around here kind of sticks to the roads. So if you wanted to go and try and avoid running into other fey creatures, maybe unsullied or sullied troops patrolling around, I would definitely say avoid the roads.
Avoid the roads.
Yeah, stick to the woods. You'll have a better time keeping your tracks thin.
Well, very well. I suppose we
Okay.
have our plan then.
How about heading?
Let's go
Um,
get some berries and then carry on.
Real quick, this gentleman here had an interesting question, even though he's a mute. He's asking what money's here. I'll tell you right now, like money. I've heard of money because obviously you're not the first material plane folks that I run into. It's not really a thing here. 'Cause for the most part, in the Feywild, things are traded. It's a quid pro quo. It's like, okay, I want some berries. This guy might bring me a chicken for the berries. You know what I mean? So it's a trade system. Not to say that there wouldn't be someone who would be interested in the material plane's gold, but they would look at it more in a sense of like melting it down to using it as a decorative piece rather than actually currency.
All right.
All right. Well, if y'all have nothing else to say, go ahead. I'll walk you out of town. We'll make y'all big again. Hopefully, you bring me back some berries, and then we'll call it even.
Yeah. actually, as we're walking and Aqua's about to turn us back, I'd like to ask Aqua, I'm like, so from what Foxglove told me that sorcerer's powers are inherited by their parents, is there many creatures that dabble in the psionic arts?
She thinks about it long and hard, and she's like, I'll be honest with you, like, at least around here, we don't see very much in the psionic arts. It's a kind of rare gift. And even Cricket speaks up at this point, and he's like, I'll be honest with you, I've never seen much of a creature that uses psionic arts. Most of the time, it's usually individuals, like adventurers like yourself. But I haven't seen anything personally.
Interesting. So what you're saying is mine is not normal.
Oh no, Sonny, you a rare gift.
And I just kind of ponder on that as we continue walking.
All right. They go ahead and walk you out to the outskirts. I'm gonna move the whole party right about here. And they go ahead and walk you out to the outskirts of town. She's like, Cricket's like, all right, well, so, I'm sure glad you didn't destroy any of our village. I'm real sorry to have like been a little bit hostile in the beginning, but you seem to be real good people. So I appreciate y'all and hope to see y'all again another time. And he kind of takes a step back, and Aqua's like, all right, ready to be big again?
Yes, please.
Oh, we're ready.
She goes and starts swirling around you guys as a whole group, and you all return back slowly to your normal size. Let me go get another miniatures for scale so I know how big you guys have to be to do, and I'll go ahead and work on this as you guys continue to do your thing.
Okay. Oh, thank God. Now, if I could just get my original body back, that'd be great. One step at a time, one step at a time.
Can I put a finger over Genesis' lips and go,
I'm glad
yeah.
you did that, as I like to show you a new trick I learned. You know what? Why not a little bit of a sparring session, you know? Really make sure we've broken in our new abilities.
I will just shake my head and start walking outside.
I bet you will.
I too also just kind of walk outside, and I go and are the berries quite obvious?
Yeah, so you go ahead and you walk outside, and you go and start looking over berries, and yeah, you pretty much almost immediately find the berries that she's talking about.
Can I taste one of the berries? Are they tasty?
You taste one of the berries that's actually quite bitter.
I'll shake my head and grab a handful or two and start heading back to hand them in to Aqua.
Same thing. Pick a whole bunch, and I start taking them. But instead of taking it all the way inside, I kind of leave them at the front of the lounge. Like, I'm sure. Or do we want to travel all the way back, you guys? Like, how
No,
long will that take?
as you guys come back, you see that the veil has kind of lifted, and you see the little fairy town. As you come back to the little encampment, Aqua kind of gestures over. He's like, "Just put them right over here." And there's like a little area where it looks like there's like, almost like a bowl. It's just it's just a wooden bowl that they kind of throw the things in. And you can see that there's like one berry left in it.
I'll dump my handfuls in there and turn around and walk back out.
As you guys all come up, but go ahead.
I also, when I picked berries, I picked a couple leaves as well, and I put them in the mix. And I put berries and leaves, so they can use them as plates, guys.
She goes ahead, and as you guys all come back with the handfuls, or like her little bowls overflowing, she's like, "Oh, this is a lot more than I thought there would be. All right, I guess just kind of sprinkle them around the bowl and try and get as close to the bowl as possible." Oh shoot!
Oh my God! Oh dear God in heaven!
So
Yeah,
after,
go ahead.
Yeah. So after that, guys, it's like, so do we want to go straight up to the inn, or what do you guys want to do?
I say we travel about 15 foot off the road, but parallel to it anywhere we go.
You don't
I
want
would
to
say
travel-
maybe 15 yards off the road.
15 yards sounds more more reasonable. Yeah.
That
which
works
would be,
too.
Which would be like 45, 50 feet away.
Either way, so you don't want to be on the road, but you want to be able to see it.
Yes.
Exactly.
I guess we're
As you
gonna
guys
start
go and drop off the
heading to
berries,
the
he's
end.
like, "All right, thank you so much. Pleasure meeting all y'all."
Yeesh.
Thank you again for
Goodbye.
all of your help. Enjoy your berries.
All right, we appreciate
Have a
it.
good
Thank you.
time with that. TTFN. Ta-ta for now.
All right. And so you guys go ahead and you depart the little fairy village. As you guys depart, goes back into its little fog and disappears amongst the lounge.
Cool beans.
Cool beans.
Cool beans.
Yeah. So you guys know that you're going to stay off the road. You're going to stay about 45 feet away from, or 15 yards away from the side of the road. Where do you guys head?
To the inn?
Yeah, say it's north. If I remember, I point to them. I said point. I point to it on the map. It says north, so it should be the green. He said. He said it's about a day and a half. But then again, the sun never sets, so I don't
So
know
who
what
knows
that
how
actually
long
means.
that is?
In fact, how do we even know if we need to take a rest? Like, how's everyone feeling?
Well,
Okay.
aside from motion sickness,
Um,
I'm doing pretty good.
I'm going to inject here and say that, like, yeah, you guys, I'm going to say that you spent a few hours at the encampment, and then probably doing the entire montage to learn all your abilities took at least like maybe half a day, 5 to 6 hours maybe. So at this point, you guys have probably been here for close to like 8 hours. But doing that entire training montage to learn all your spells and everything, that does actually affect your spell slots. So currently, most of you do not have spell slots.
So I guess with that, like I don't know about you guys, but I know I feel a little tired from practicing the spells. Do we want to rest before we move on? And since we're at a good spot here, or do you want to move a little bit and then camp out in the woods?
Let's travel a little bit and camp out in the woods.
Leon asked if we should sleep in the bar.
I actually think that sleeping at the club would be the safest course of action.
Well, if we
two-
do need any
two
help
for the
with any
club.
food or anything, the little people or the fairies could help us with that if we need anything. So staying here would probably be more logical. We already have shelter and everything.
Sorry, Ricker. Looks like you're outvoted, buddy. Looks like we're gonna be resting here first.
Yeah, Leon also chimes in and says they say they never see people.
Yeah, even more reason to potentially stay here so we don't get ganked in the middle of the night.
I wonder if there even is a night here in the Fey world.
Good question. I haven't really seen anything move for a while, so.
Yeah,
Right.
when you
I
guys
suppose
went
we
out
should
to
have
go-
asked them that.
Yeah. Oh well. Actually, I would like to take a moment and kind of look outside, and like, has the sun changed or anything, or is it still more or less
It's
what we
still
think it is?
sunset.
Still sunset. Okay.
I mean, to be fair, at DM interjection here, you guys are staying at the bar, but that doesn't necessarily, or at the club, but that doesn't necessarily mean if you had more questions that you couldn't just go upstairs and be like, hey, knock knock.
Right.
Or, hey, stick your head in, your head's tiny, and then boom. Hey, what's up?
Well, I know, like, I myself didn't really explore this place, so I would probably explore a little bit, find some place kind of comfortable to relax, and I would just probably just relax there for, whatever long rest we need to do.
Okay. So yeah, I'll just go ahead and say that you guys are going to be here long enough that I'll just say that you guys go and explore all the rooms. So let's see. For the most part, most of the rooms were explored and kind of gone through. So you guys never went into, if you see my cursor here. Hello. So coming over here, you go behind the bar. this area wasn't really explored. So you guys take a look around. You find a lot of spoil food, but you do see some cookware, like some heavier pots and stuff that weren't too heavy for the fairies to pick up. And then when you go into this little supply closet, you find yourself some cleaning supplies, various crates. But something of note is that you do actually see that this crate right here is actually a chest that still has a lock on it.
Okay.
Can I pick said lock?
Yeah, go ahead and make a sleight of hand check. And since you are you, let's see. First time I've been playing with an artificer. So
Hmm.
if you're an artificer, I know you're proficient with the thieves' tools.
Mm-hmm.
Why does it not tell me? Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and just I'm gonna look it up, and I'm still gonna go ahead and just make a call and say that you're gonna have proficiency automatically with this check because you're using your thieves' tools.
So roll with advantage.
It's going to be your proficiency bonus, which is 2. So whatever you roll plus 2.
15.
Yeah, so that's enough. You go ahead and you pick the little lock, and inside you find yourselves like everything in here is well preserved, so don't think of anything as ruined. You find yourselves a couple bolts of really nice silk cloth. You find a I had it written down. There you go. So you find yourselves 2 bolts of local cloth. There is a kind of like a ceremonial dagger that's inlaid with gold in the handle. And you also find yourself a crystal orb.
Ooh.
I will
I'm intrigued
hand
by
the crystal orb to Ernest. I will pocket said dagger. And I will offer the bolts of silk up to anyone else that wants them.
Nobody? I take the silk too.
Wheat.
All right. So then, real quick, the dagger acts like a normal dagger. It's not magical or anything. But, and this is metagaming. This is for your character sheet. Ceremonial dagger has a worth of 100 gold points.
Nice.
Gold pieces. Each of the silk bolts weigh in at about 10 gold pieces. And the crystal orb, again, not magical, but this weighs in about 75 gold pieces.
Okay. Equipment.
And before you ask, that key that you found earlier, Leon, or Tolrak, excuse me, that key was for that little crate. So Leon, this hookah that you went and picked up, it's clear that it was not cleaned out before it was used, so it's real stanky. However, you have a feeling that you could, with some pretty good love and care, and plus looking at like some of the things that are still lying around, you could probably get this thing cleaned up and ready to go. Well, I'm not gonna make you roll to check on it. You work on it long enough that you can actually clean it up, and so it's a fully functional hookah. The only thing with this hookah, there you do not see in all your inspection all over the place, there is no tobacco and there is no coals. So I feel like Leon's now going to be on a quest for tobacco and coals.
And you said 150 gold worth on that dagger, Mark?
I said 100.
How much was the orb?
75.
Okay, thank you.
Now, real quick, metagaming here. And this is something I'm going to ask you guys as the players. So, I thought it would be cool that in the Feywild that everything worked on a trading bartering system. So rather than just like dumping gold in your pockets, I thought it would be cooler to give you items that are worth gold that you could then barter and trade with people, and therefore it opens up doors for essentially haggling. And like even though I rated that dagger for being like 100 gold, to the right person it might be worth more, it might be worth less. So you could go ahead and say like, okay, well, maybe you go up to a farmer and you're like, well, we would very much like a cow for some reason. Well, maybe they wouldn't have much interest in like, and they want like 40 gold. Well, maybe you have the crystal ball and you're like, oh, well, I don't have much use for this crystal ball. It's just going to sit on a shelf. Who cares? But if you go and offer him like the 2 bolts of silk, well, that's something very royal. That's something very luxurious, and he might put more value on that and thus trade you the cow for 2 bolts of silk cloth. Make sense?
Yep.
So, do you guys like that system, or would you rather just stick to gold?
I mean,
I'm willing to give it a try.
I like it for now. I like the concept. We'll see how it plays out.
Okay. That was kind of my thought process. I'm like, let's go ahead and give it a go, and therefore it also opens doors for role playing and stuff, and being able to haggle a little bit more with people,
Yeah.
rather than just say, yes, this item's worth 750 gold, and you guys just pay 750 gold, and ta-da, you're done. It opens doors for like a little bit more haggling. So anyway,
We can become our own Garfields.
I guess we could.
So anyway, that's that. So you guys, that's about the only thing that you discover here in the nightclub. And I'm assuming you guys go ahead and settle down, and make camp for the night.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Pull out some dice and let's play some liar's dice here.
I mean, do you actually
Pass the
want to
time.
play liar's dice?
I mean, we could, but.
So I'll be
I was
honest
just
with you.
role-playing
At
it.
this point, I was gonna actually end the session.
Oh, okay.
I would say it sounds like a good spot to end it.
But if you guys wanted to, we could easily load up liar's dice here.
Down for some
No,
liar's dice.
Sure, we can play a little.
Okay. Okay.